Nice to have you here. How are you?
Thanks for inviting. I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. So today we have a special guest, Danko, and he will be talking about context engineering, and prompting, and then he will give us also some brilliant demo. So I let you start your show, and please introduce yourself and show us your cool stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I will just start the presentation and start my introduction and just to figure out how to share the screen.
There should be share button next to the leave button, so don't mix it up.
Oh, awesome. So you can see my presentation. So hi everyone, my name is Danko Petrovic. I'm a QA practice lead at IBM AX company. I'm based in Graz, Austria, and I've been doing quality assurance for around 14 years, worked for various companies, and moved to Austria 10 years ago. I worked at the core of test automation RunnerX, and then moved to other companies, and then now at IBM iX, um, where I'm mostly driving the topics of AI. And I want to show you today's agenda. Basically, I'll walk you through how GenAI transforms quality assurance across software delivery lifecycle, why prompt engineering is no longer enough, and how the context engineering is delivering the real value. And I will show one practical example, fetching Jira a ticket from within the chat agent and generating detailed manual test cases. And there will be space for the questions at the end, and I will share some implementation tips and some useful resources. So I'll go straight to it. So let's get started. So across software delivery lifecycle, we know quality assurance teams can help at and should be involved at all of the stages, and where specifically AI can help us be more efficient. The first stage is at the requirements analysis. So to expand and clarify on the acceptance criteria, detect some ambiguities or contradictions, assess the testability, which is very important, and give feedback on that first step. Then it follows with test design, where we write manual test cases, test steps from those requirements. If using BDD, converting it to BDD framework, that can be later used for automation. But in general, at this stage, AI can also be quite helpful. Next to that is generating some test data for the test cases, which can be AI can create automation-ready test data in different formats. Is it a BDD example stable, or JSON, or CSV, or even SQL insert statements for the database? It can be quite helpful. Then on the next stage, we go to test automation scripting, where AI can transform those BDD scripts or the test steps into executable code with some custom script enhancements. That can be with additional context of the application, and etc. But with some guidance, it can generate quite some useful code to be used. Then we have a non-functional testing, where it can generate some performance testing plans based on, for example, Google Analytics data or some other reports, create execution scripts and various things into performance. Also, it can quite help with analyzing accessibility issues, why something fails, how it should be fixed, and then producing almost a dev-ready fixes. We move on to test execution. Basically, when we gather enough context of the application, we could use MCP servers or testing agents in the CLI to execute and report on the issues. We see nowadays many autonomous agents that don't need much guidance, but they should still have some context how to execute. So this is quite a big step in utilizing AI. Then we have a defects analysis step where AI can help perform defect analysis on and generating defect resolution recommendations. Basically, collecting different information on why something happened, comparing to test cases or user stories, and can have helping triaging and those issues. And operations and observability, I see as a final step to also triage the customer feedback, perform some root cause analysis, propose new tests from the gaps. We also see AI ops agents that can perform really well. They are connected to many systems, and yeah, they can quite a lot save time on providing operations and observability. So this was a big picture in this software development lifecycle. One of the areas that we are going to cover today will be shown in the demo: requirements analysis, test design, and test data. But I want to first show and explain why prompting engineering is out and no longer fits for use cases in AI agents, and why in general is not sufficient. Basically, in traditional prompt engineering works with simple one-off tasks. It's not capable of gathering the whole context at once. It doesn't scale in our application for quality assurance, so it's not practical to each time in user story and everything copy and paste those long prompts and just change some details in the middle and hope it's going to work, because it also lacks a lot of application and business context. It's mostly not that consistent. It doesn't deliver full traceability with just the prompting. So I put the screenshot from basically using whichever tool or agent you use today, or let's say ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever. Usually when you copy paste such thing, like generate me manual test cases for this thing, and you copy paste it from Jira, it lacks all of the formatting context. It doesn't have any business context information behind. So even though with the latest GPT-5 and thinking for some time, it creates a lot of assumptions, and it does say it, but basically the formatting is unusable, and you almost cannot do anything with it. It makes some assumptions about non-functional tests, some quality attributes, and so on. Then we got to prompt engineering. Just a quick 101. It should have several structural elements. Give it a role, who the model should act as a QA lead. For example, which task should it do? What constraints should it have in the sense of tone, length, policies? What is the input on to operate that is like a Jira test case, a Jira user story? Then a few short examples to imitate what the output should be. This is like how we would like to have the test cases generated, and also requesting for the formatted structure. Should it be a JSON schema or a table? And with a good prompt, we get a clear goal and concrete constraints and explicit format. So basically, it's crafting the instructions to guide the LLM's behavior in output. It shapes the form and the style, but it doesn't create a missing facts, and the model uses it to only what it already sees. And for example, with the improved prompt, where you put a bit more structure and information and also try to convert the requirements into Markdown, so it gets more context, what goes under which point, or if there is a table or something like that. It works better. It has Markdown significantly improves the output, but still lacks the application and business context, and still has inconsistencies and some hallucinated outputs. So it creates some nice table, but if you look at it, still you would have to copy paste it from there into your test management tool, to CSV, or you could try asking it to generate something that you could download and import, but it's still a lot of fiddling around and manual work, how it should actually behave around. So where does it work and where does it break? It's good for rewriting, summarizing, translating, style, voice, transformation, and maybe some format conversions, like give it a free text and give me a JSON or table, and some generic ideation and boilerplate examples. It can quite save them some time and do a pretty decent job. But when it needs more context and tools and external knowledge, specific knowledge, then it doesn't really work well. It's also hard to find reliably the structure, and specifically for those applications, PI and secrets and safety and compliance, it doesn't really match, so it doesn't cover that. So the prompting is optimizing for expression, and while the context engineering is more on supplying the ground truth. So what is a context engineering, and why is this a new skill in AI, especially in building AI agents? Because it is a system. It's not just a simple string. Like if you look at the prompt, it's a long length string that you give it. It's about curating the right context so the model can succeed. And for QA application, it means grounding the test generation in requirements, in API specifications, in business rules, and whatever you can have to feed to the model, but at the right time when it needs, and not just put 100 pages of business requirements into a prompt and hope it's going to find what he needs at a given point. So we have, for what all comes into the context is the instructions and the system prompt, the long-term memory, what the agent saves, retrieved information or RAG system, state or history with the short-term memory, user prompt, the actual ask from the user at a given point, available tools that it has, and giving the structured outputs. So in details, those are the 7 layers of an AI context. So we still need a good prompt engineering to craft a really powerful system prompt that really guides the agent how it should work. With the user prompt, it's like immediate ask or question from the user what it should do. A short state history or short-term memory is the current conversation memory from the current chat session. A long-term memory is a persistent knowledge base, some learned user preferences, past conversations from previous sessions. So these are the important ones. Also, the RAG retrieval information is connecting to external and up-to-date knowledge, relevant information from documents, databases, business specifications, and everything. So under available tools, there are definitions of the functions or built-in tools that it can call, and we'll see an example how this is set up. And also structured outputs, definition in the format how the model should respond. For example, if it's a JSON object, is it a markdown, is it a table? So each layer multiplies the effectiveness of the layer below it. And it's a stack, it's a system that operates just like an operating system at a computer. Just some side comparison which aspect has prompt engineering and the context engineering. It's for the single string optimization approach is for prompt engineering. For the context, it's a system architecture. It's a lot of different connected systems. We have static text versus dynamic and the structured data. Reliability, it's mostly mostly consistent, but not really 100%. While with the context engineering, we can achieve much higher consistency and quality. For scalability, it's always manually tweaking and copy pasting and stitching the prompts together. Where in context engineering, we have automated pipelines and the whole systems that work synchronously. Maintenance, it's brittle and needs updates. With context, you can make it a self-improving through feedback. If the user gives feedback that was good, it can store this in memory, long-term memory. That was a good answer. It can refer to that later. With integrations, it's a copy-paste solution. You always have to copy-paste in and out what it is in there. With agent in context engineering, you can connect natively to various tools, and the quality is much better with the context engineering. So much about the context in the QA. Where does the context come from? We have a requirements context like Jira stories and epics. We have acceptance criteria, user feedback analytics. We have some requirements that goes along with those stories. Some technical context, API documentations, schemas, architecture diagrams, various things that goes into technical. And then important also the business context and domain knowledge, some risk assessments, performance requirements, what are the user personas and the journeys. So this all counts in a context relevant for the QA. So it's depending on application that you are serving, the environment and everything, you can think of how to achieve this. And I would go now to show the demo with agent that I built. I will just quickly have to go here.
Maybe before you start, I'll just mention that if our attendees want to ask any question, there is a chat on YouTube channel and you can ask there. I have some questions already, but we will also go through that once you finish. So
if there are some questions, we can pop out. I will just prepare for sharing the screen.
There are no questions yet. That's why I decided to step in and tell about that. But if someone has a question, you can use the chat.
Okay. Good. So Then I will continue and share the agent screen that I built. And okay, I see it's visible now. Great. So this is a demo, a QA agent that will do a lot of things that I explained. So requirements analysis and test case generation and test data generation. So I will walk through here quickly and prepare some details. First thing that is here on the left is the knowledge base that we can provide to the vector store, which is then used for retrieval augmented generation, meaning that we can upload. There are two ways. I have connected also my Google Drive, but easy is also to upload files from the file form, and it will use the embeddings model to create those memory and chunks into the memory, which then the agent will be able to retrieve. That is one important part, and then the agent itself, it's now built as a chat agent, but this can be also a workflow agent from webhook that can send request and get response back as a JSON or whatever. So there we have the model. I'm using Azure OpenAI because that one is more secure and better data security. Then what we have is a simple memory. This is a short-term memory from the presentation, the context engineering. This will remember last 10 conversations, so past interactions with which model receives as a context. This can be 5 or 10. Just think about how you're going to use it and how much information you want to keep from past conversations. Because if you're moving to a new ticket, it doesn't help to still have information from the previous one. This is retrieval augmented generation. Then we have various tools, and I have connected to my Jira, where I can say to get an issue from the Jira, and the agent will then go using my credentials and do a get operation. It will determine automatically by the model which key to get, because you will tell it in the chat. And important is also to expand on the rendered fields, so it gives the full context back, shows all the linked test cases or link parent topics, epics, and similar. There is also a tool to create a Jira ticket that will be linked to this ticket. So, for example, if we create test cases, we can say to create them as a subtasks. This is determined by this issue type ID. So it will upload them directly to Jira without needing to copy paste. So this step is really a nice one. So you can connect any tool that you want, or test trail or whatever, to provide it directly from your chat agent. There is also a Confluence connector that will make an HTTP request to Confluence and get back the data. It's important also to optimize the response to be an HTML and only the body, because otherwise the full HTML code is quite large and it doesn't really help model a lot to retrieve everything. So you always have to be mindful what you are parsing and you're getting. That was the tools, and then I have also created a long-term history to store the information when we are satisfied with generated test cases. We can instruct the model to save them in the database for long reference, so then some other system can pull from there, or you can load them before you generate new ones, and such things. And then the most important thing is inside the agent itself. This is the system prompt, which I have been playing around since a couple of days, but I came out with one big prompt. I will move to details, but essentially it does its own checks and how to ask the user and how to know which is the next step to do, etc., etc. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to feed some data here. Just give me a second. I will upload one PDF. I can share that later. It's a domain knowledge. It's basically a domain knowledge base. I see you don't actually see that because it's only one. Doesn't matter. It's a pop-up window from N8N, so you don't see it at the moment, but I will share that later. But you can see that I uploaded here a user personas PDF. It took the loader and it took the embeddings to load the information in our retrieval augmented generation database. And it has the information about those personas that, for example, we get from the business, how it should be from business side, so it gets more context. And I will do one more file, which is a domain knowledge base. I will submit. So the domain knowledge base PDF, so that way you can upload a documentation that the model can then reference to when it needs. And it can include information like our web shop supports these currencies in these locales and these payment methods and delivery methods. So when you have a user story, for example, check that all payment methods work, or check for all carriers are displayed. Your model will not hallucinate and figure out some of them on its own, but it will reference those specific ones. Okay, so now that this is set, I will start putting some work in here, and let's say perform requirements analysis for this Jira ticket. And we see that first it thinks about it, gets the Jira ticket, it resolves the vector database, and it will now show us the full requirements analysis breakdown for this user story. This is a summary. It shows what it has. It has additionally linked non-functional requirements Confluence page, which is quite usual in user stories in Jira, that it has some requirements or some, even the whole detailed requirements are saved in Jira, in Confluence, not in Jira. So then it checks everything, what is written in there, and identifies some gaps and analysis, and makes some assumptions around it because it wasn't defined. And then it shows some acceptance criteria. It took the compliance from the domain requirements and domain knowledge base PDF. So it lists some risk areas. In the conclusion, it's well defined and testable, minor clarifications needed, it's all traceable and actionable, and would you like to proceed with generating test cases? So yes, please generate test cases. So after a few seconds, it could generate a lot of test cases that are then covering all of those acceptance criteria, and it will tell us at the end that what was the coverage, 16 test cases covering all acceptance criteria, localization, accessibility, performance. We can then save them, or we can modify them with, if we are not satisfied, but it gives all the necessary information, and let's assume it is okay. So yes, save. Okay, so after it did, it shows us the report is successfully saved, a summary of coverage, and the next steps if we want to generate test data or traceability metrics or start with another user story. What is interesting to see now for this conversation, okay, but before that, so maybe I will just go here and this is a Superbase and refresh. This was the newly created chat history or saved test cases. You can name it however you want. But the model itself automatically saved the ID for that generated user story, and it saved the test cases in the format that we provided in the system prompt. And this is the beauty of it. I instructed it to format it this way with ID, title, description, preconditions, steps as arrays, and priorities. So this is saved as a JSON format, nicely formatted and ready to be used by any subsequent application, or using it for exporting it further or displaying it in some other UI. But essentially, it's a really handy way to have them structured and formatted properly. Yeah, like I said quickly, it was defined in here how to perform the save. What I wanted to show now is this whole agent took around 24,000 tokens for the prompt 22, and for the completion around 2.2 thousand tokens, which is not a lot, considering that if I go to the LLM leaderboard, you have models with 2 million, 1 million tokens. It's most likely not a problem for them, but it can be if you are pulling in a lot of context, like a whole confluence you stuck into the reg or some lengthy documents. It can get quite overloaded, and that's why it's important, like for the reg, it retrieves only documents that it needs. And in our test case, it had reference to a Confluence page. It took information from there just to be sure it's accurate. So let's say create traceability metrics. So I'll make it a bit bigger. It gets those requirements and it shows which test cases are covering, what's the priority, risk level. It has some calculations about it. We can try to export it or do something with it. but it also can be quite interesting to try out. I'll just try one more. I just clear the session and try one more test case. With one more user story, which is more like e-commerce checkout thing, and show how it hopefully works with addressing user personas. So it goes and it retrieves documents from the embeddings. It found those, finds it in the domain base, and we'll see now she's from Germany. She likes to do payments with PayPal. I just have to find it. Where does it say it? But essentially, yeah, PayPal is a payment method. I will share the details of that user persona. So it successfully covers them as this persona that it retrieved from our knowledge base. Yeah, just wanted to show you that this confluence is not something imaginary. This is what it was created, that it was get from non-functional requirements, and those are the real user stories in Jira that it was. One thing that we haven't tried yet, so we can create, generate it. So try to create issues in Jira. Let's see if that works. Sometimes it can break if there are too many test cases and can get into the too many requests issue, but it seems that it worked. It successfully created all of those and listed back the items. So if I just open it here, takes a moment to load. And just like that, those test cases are listed here as child work items with all the details that were created in there. Okay, I'm open to questions now. I have like 2 more slides to show some implementation tips and some resources that can be useful.
Wow, cool. Perfect. Maybe, I don't know whether you want to finish with the slides and then we will start with the questions, or...
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, let's do it in that way, because I have a million questions and there is one from chat as well, so we can go
Awesome.
through them.
Okay, presentation. So yeah, those are the resources. I can share the presentation with you, and we can attach it into the video description later on. But there are some videos about how to set them up in 8.8n. and some blog posts, like really good ones. But just some implementation tips from my side: use N8N or similar visual workflow for building. If you want in the code, use a long chain. Markdown everywhere for the structured context, because LLMs love Markdown and understand it much easier. Use JSON schemas for consistent outputs. Integration first thinking, so connect to real systems. And progressive enhancements. So start simple and add context layers later. For example, fetching images from Jira tickets, comments, other stuff. And remember the difference between AI demos and AI products is context engineering.
Wow, very nice. Cool. So let's move to the questions now. If you can stop your sharing. And there are some more questions popping up. So let's see. So first one is, what's the size of the original document in RAC?
It was 1 or 2 pages. So it was really small. The requirements and user personas are really small pieces, but with the RAG you can define the chunk sizes, how long each piece of the content should be. Basically with RAG you can work with hundreds of documents, and it uses semantic similarity to find the relevant piece of information from that vector database to retrieve the proper information.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. The second one was, can you create test cases for test rail with an 8N?
Yes, definitely. You can create just TestRail has a nice API and a defined structure. We just need, if anything doesn't have a TestRail node, which I don't think so, we can create a simple HTTP request and provide the structure that it needs. So that would work for sure.
Another one is, how do you think the agent will handle concurrency? Supposing there are about 10 testers using the agent at the same time, does it affect the performance?
I think so. Each agent has its own session ID. The performance would go down to the server that is running automation, but this N8N automation is not very resource intensive. It also will depend on how many requests you can send to Jira for your account, how many basically I don't see that much of a performance bottleneck possible here, to be honest.
Cool. For those who are watching us, please don't forget to follow and like us, as I should say all the time. And I will now move on with my questions. But if you have some other questions, you're welcome to join us via chat, and you can share your questions. But I was just thinking about this idea of. I will start with high-level questions. You said that the prompt engineering is kind of over, and we should focus on the context. But isn't it just better prompt engineering, or basically working with the LLMs, that it shouldn't be there from day one? No. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, basically we started using LLMs with simple questions like a normal talking to a person, but then it showed up that this doesn't really work. So people came up with prompt engineering, so giving more structure and more context to LLMs. And in general, if you're thinking like using any of the AI systems out there that are public in cloud, you cannot modify their system prompt to tune it to do the things that you want, but it does what it is programmed to do in that chat application. And that's why I'm more on using via API, where you can give it the system prompt and then the user prompt, and then give it a more structure to what you want. And typically with prompt engineering, you cannot figure it out to connect to your external systems and do more stuff. So you need, the problem can come up with like a long running agents for programming, autonomous coding, autonomous QA agents that are running a lot of context gathering, deep research. So such things cannot work from a simple prompt because it will overflow it and forget things in the middle.
Okay, I see. I have one maybe a kind of philosophical question or high-level questions, and then I'll go deeper into the demo and the technical part. I feel like with this NA10s and all these other tools, we are building cool stuff. But I expect that maybe in the future we will have some tools which will work for us in a way that we will just spinning them up and it will work. It's something like we don't program any more databases or any database systems or UI frameworks. It's there. And now it looks like we are gluing all these like great ideas into something to make it work. What do you think how the future will look like? Are we building these tools ourselves, or do you expect that there will be some tools to run this for us?
It's a good question, Marcel. I mean, today's, since yesterday, the newsfeed is full of OpenAI just killed NA10 and such things,
Yeah.
because they are trying to build some agent builders on their own. And I still, like since ever, I've worked in test automation and using DevOps, CI/CD pipelines. I love the structure that they piece everything together to be exactly how I want it to be, and to that it's repeatable and more reliable, so I'm more in control. But if there could be in the future that agent orchestrates itself, that could get all those orchestrational things going, but it still would not be that probably that smart, or you would have to give in information with your external systems. So it's not everything living in that one orchestrator that controls everything.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. So maybe I will move on to this. You a bit pull me into the OpenAI announcement later this or earlier this week. There was I think they call it Agent Kit, announced
Yeah.
on Monday or on Tuesday, and some people say that it kills a few tools like Zapier, Make, and N8 and so on. What's your opinion about that?
I still think it's far from the truth. It's just marketing and the hype in the community. Of course, it's for someone who was using Zapier, N8N, or Make to glue some things together and stitch it with OpenAI API to do some AI stuff. Sure, those users would convert, but for like a full control, N8N, you cannot deploy your agent kit locally or in your own infrastructure. It lives in the OpenAI cloud, and they are controlling everything, all of the data they can collect, they can do whatever they want with it. So you don't own it, you just rent it as an infrastructure to give your workflows to them to do it for you. What I love with N8N, I opened it up with Docker, and if for example, enterprises have Jira instances, many test trail instances in the private cloud, so they're not accessible outside. So you cannot use any of those things for connecting. But with N8N, Langflow, Langchain, you can build it up and run it in your own infrastructure. You are protected from the outside and secure. So I don't think it's a major shift, but it is going, showing a direction, going into more of those building blocks, and maybe, like you said, someday it will be replaced with something super intelligent that does everything for us, but
I see.
not so confident.
Okay. So you already mentioned, I had another question, what are other alternatives to N8N, but you already mentioned that LangChain and or LangGraph.
Yeah.
Uh, would you recommend to maybe explore and try some other tools, or you are a big fan of N8N and that's the only you would use?
Yeah, I'm open to exploring whatever. This is me first time building a workflow in N8N. It was super fun and exciting to connect it and see it working.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I'm always on the look for new tools and agents and whatever is uh, having us work more efficient and saving us time. I'm up to.
Okay. And then this is just prototype, or did you already apply the similar idea or the same workflow in a real project?
This is just a prototype, but I will try to utilize it a bit more and try to see how we can use it in the real projects because it's open source. It's open to connect to any model provider, any Jira instance, any
Uh-huh.
database. It's quite flexible, and
Yeah.
if people are interested who are watching, leave a comment. We can maybe drop the template for an event. If you'd like to
Mhm.
try it out yourself,
Would be nice.
I'll give it away for free.
Okay, cool. So maybe if someone watching this video and already using something similar, I would love you to have you here to maybe share your experience. And Danko, maybe you can come again in a few months and share your story, how it goes with this prototype, whether you was able to deploy it somewhere and what you learned from it. Uh, yeah,
Definitely. This is only one scope of, yeah, this is agent tailored to do specific things. So you can have multiple agents, multi-agent architectures. We can create another agent that does the execution that can call agentic AI testing, MCP servers, Playwright, browser, computer use, many other things. But they
mm-hmm,
need to be, agent should be tailored to do specific thing
uh-huh,
at a
yeah,
point. So, but
cool. And
exciting thing.
yeah, I think there is pretty like many opportunities and ideas what we could build nowadays with these tools. That's why I'm so excited about that and inviting the great guest like you, the expert from the field. So maybe I'll just I have still a lot of questions, but I'll try to shorten that. What about the quality and maintenance of these tests? Did you try to use it for some more complex topics and generate the tests? What is the quality? Do you have some experience, or it's still too early to maybe assess the quality?
Yeah, with this prototype, I'm pretty confident it will give good results, but we'll try to use it in a real case project where I connect it to more complex stuff, longer user stories, lot more context, and see what are the results. Because, like I said, using generic chats or some scrappy solutions doesn't really give a lot of advantage. So, like I said, we need a proper input, a structured output that we can work with it. Um, yeah, there are many now opportunities with such no-code builders and vibe coding to do many internal tools that can help companies be more efficient.
Mhm. And what about maintenance? Did you think about how to maintain existing maybe some regression set with this? Because that would be probably a different workflow or some extra tweaks to be able to maintain or.
Yeah, it would be just uh, putting it in a different agent that would retrieve several test cases, several user stories, and try to figure out what is still valid, what's not, um, gather some automation results in. So it is just figuring out what to put in the context of the agent and what you
Mhm.
expect as an outcome. And yeah, the possibilities are quite open.
Okay, and you use storing the test cases. You are using this super-based database. It's just the like a temporary step before you feed some test case management tool, or
It is just to it serves two purposes to store what you have generated and not lose it when you restart the chat, and also that you can export it to additional tools. But like I mentioned, you can read the test cases before you even generate new ones. If, for example, user story has changed, acceptance criteria has changed, you can get to fetch the user story and fetch all the test cases, and now find me the coverage gap and generate me new test cases to cover these gaps. So this can be also done very simply with this.
okay, cool. And maybe last one, and then I will try to wrap up. You mentioned RAG, or these vector databases to be used to improve the efficiency and maybe handle the context. But these days, people are crazy about MCPs. And I was thinking, is these MCPs could at least partially replace the RAG databases, because you can fetch directly specific relevant data from the source systems, and you don't need to embed them and store them in a database. What's your idea? What's your opinion about this?
I haven't thought of it, but since you mentioned it, yes. For example, Jira and many others have MCP tools that you can fetch Jira tickets from MCP. It serves with another protocol. It gives more control to the agent to decide where to find this and how to fetch it. But I think it's vector, like RAG databases can store much bigger information. They are much more performant because they're optimized for that. It's all binarized information, and it really is quick to find relevant information from that large vector store. So here is used only an internal store, but there are Pinecone and Superbase vector database which can handle millions of documents. And I'm pretty sure that MCP would struggle to fit everything into its context to find what's relevant and give it back. So it's always, MCP is only just a protocol that gives more connector to LLM, and it's not a proper like infrastructure system that operates at a high scale, I would say.
Perfect. So that's it for today. Thank you very much who joined us. I could see some thank you messages in the chat. So people are happy about the session and content. If you want to see more, follow us. There is one more session next week about MCPs and testing APIs. So that might be also interesting. I think the Juraj who is joining us will use robot framework. So if you are a fan of robot framework, maybe you will find something there as well. And with that, I would like to thank you, Danko, joining me today. And good luck with all these ideas, and happy to hear new stories after a few months. You can maybe share your experience, how it developed further. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
definitely. Thank you very much for inviting me. It was a pleasure. Have a great day all.